Welcome to our show once again on Andydtv. Today I have in the studio a wonderful woman, a learned friend, a colleague in practice. She is Georgette Djaba, the daughter of the late Henry Kwadwo Djaba. Welcome, Georgette.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm also honored to meet you. An eloquent woman, a woman who speaks for the many. Who was your father?
My father, Henry Kwadwo Djaba, was a businessman. He was born in Achimtafo in 1933.
Okay.
And he attended Abuabo, a school in Abuabo.
Okay.
I believe he did his middle from 4.
All right.
And then went to commercial college for a couple of years.
All right.
And decided to branch out into business.
Mm-hmm.
So as he tells the story, he met a gentleman called James Kwame,
Okay.
and F.Y. Asari.
All right.
And they formed a business.
Okay.
Initially, it was called Farm Machinery Supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Then he changed it to Ghana Agricultural Machinery Company.
Okay.
So he was a businessman.
Okay.
He later on also established the New Plant Bus Company in Ghana.
Right. What was his relationship with Nkrumah?
He was a CPP activist, and they were very close.
Right.
He used to go and teach him how to drive. And at one point, my father actually purchased a Mercedes-Benz as a gift to Osaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
I see.
Kwame Nkrumah also gave him a contract to import cocoa spraying machines to prevent the cocoa from being attacked by the termites.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that contract, he is reported to have made at least £1 million.
I see. That's quite a lot of money at the time.
Yes. My father was 27 years old and he became a millionaire at 27.
Was a very wealthy man.
Yes.
What happened to him?
That's a very interesting question. He was always innovative. He was always looking for business.
Okay.
And as far as I can remember, in 1966, or just before that, let's just say 1964, some of his own business friends reported him to Dr. Nkrumah and said that, or they claimed or alleged at the time that he had brought in second-hand cocoa spray machines, sprayed them, and sold it to Ghana for brand new prices. So at the time, Dr. Nkrumah used to call him Djaba. He says, Djaba, if we leave you, you're going to sell Ghana for 2p. Why have you done this? So immediately, there was a short trial, and they put him in, I believe it was Ashaford prison.
Nkrumah
jailed my father, 24 years hard labor. And it was a very difficult time for us because I was a young girl. I must have been about 3 years old. And I remember my mother was also arrested at the time. She was a housewife, and they said they wanted her to give evidence so they could use it against my dad. And she said she didn't know anything about the business. She was just a housewife. So they imprisoned her in the Mamprobi police station for a while. And when she came out, my younger sister, Doreen, at the time, had a convulsion and died because she was with her in the cells. She was starved. They weren't giving her any food. And when that happened...
That was your sister?
Yes, my younger sister, Doreen. She died. She was also Doreen Kwadwo Djaba. And at that time, she had just had my younger brother, Henry Jr. So it was a very difficult time for my mother. And I remember clearly the night before the 66 coup, which would have been the 23rd of February, 1966, my mom's relative, General Akwesi Amankwa Afrifa, he came to our house in Kanda. We used to live in Sunyani Avenue in Kanda Estate. It would have been around about 11 in the night. And he used to call me, they did a great. So he called us to the living room and said, look, he called my mom Ya. My mom was Gladys Ya Djaba at the time. Maiden name was Opoku. So he said to my mom, Ya, Fankwalano Namunko Kufuridua, which is where my mom's mom came from. Take the children and go to Kufuridua because something's about to happen. And when it happens, I don't want you to be affected. So when he said, I was listening quietly, and I remember distinctly, and I was intrigued because I didn't know what was about to happen. I was a young girl. So my mother gathered a few things. She didn't take many things. One suitcase, bundled as myself. Henry was a baby. And then herself, and then the driver. And then we set off But as we got to Nsawam, we could hear gunshots behind us. But we didn't stop. We just went straight to Kufridwa. We went to my grandmother's house, and then we all stayed in my grandmother's room. And then in the morning, we heard on the radio, Ghana Munti, Ghana Munti. We used to have a small radio, box radio at the time. Right. They said that there had been a coup and Dr. Nkrumah had been toppled. That's what happened in 1966. So that day was when my father was released together with other political prisoners. Okay. And I remember us meeting him at his hometown, his house in Somanya. I remember they killed a cow, made some kebabs and drinks, and the whole village came to rejoice with him.
Considering your father was a very wealthy man, very rich man, do you think he had a hand in that coup?
He was in prison then, so he couldn't have.
A lot of people could. I mean, he could do that practically with his riches from... He
was in prison. I mean, to be honest, I was 3 years old. I don't know if he did. I don't know. All I know is that we were told to pack our bags and go to Kufridwa because something may happen. Because where we lived was very near the Flagstaff House. And obviously, if he'd been there, stray bullets, anything could have happened. So, I mean, we survived to tell the tale.
The accusation that was laid on him, and that led him to jail.
Profiteering, alleged profiteering.
Was it true?
Everybody's in business to make money. But if they say that he went to spray old machines, that's not true. That's not true. He had become powerful, he had become wealthy, and some of his own CPP people just sought to bring him down. And that's, I mean, if you look across history in Ghana, it happens a lot.
Okay. But why would a FIFA, General FIFA, come and just warn your mother, to take care of?
Because he loved my mother, and he was also close to my dad. He really considered my dad as an ally, a friend, and also a contact, you know what I mean, like a brother-in-law. So they were good to each other. They used to come, before my father went to jail, they would come and have parties and, you know, laugh. You know, my dad would also go to Mampong. So they were close. So that's why he came to warn us. And we thank him. May his soul rest in peace. We thank him for what he did.
Do you think it was worth it?
You mean the coup?
To remove your father's friend?
At the time, remember my father was in jail.
Right.
My sister had died. My mom was in a bad way. He was saying, Nkrumah was saying that Nkrumah is our God. He had also put people in jail without trial. And he had put some of his own political friends who then became his enemies in there. And, you know, we had heard of Kankanya, you know, we heard of all kinds of stories that it wasn't just our case. There were other families that had gone through similar difficulties. So I believe that the people of Ghana wanted to get rid of him because, remember, those who hailed him when he became president were the same people who hailed when he was overthrown. I don't know if you were born then.
Was he a dictator?
He was a dictator, yes. He was.
Would you consider your father as an enemy of Nkrumah?
No, because I talked to him a lot, even up until he died in 2013, because I was writing a biography. Then it was an autobiography. And then when he died, I had to change it to a biography. So I talked to him a lot about it. He loved him. He loved Nkrumah's children. Despite the fact that he put him in jail, he didn't say a bad word about him. He didn't.
General FIFA, after the overthrow, was Ghana in any way better?
Remember, they handed over very quickly. They didn't stay on and on and on and on and on. But at the time, I believe that the dictator had to be uprooted. They didn't kill him, remember?
Right.
They didn't. I mean, he was in exile. So, if you say Ghana was better, they handed over. I mean, Buzia came. So, I would say in that regard, yes, Ghana was a little bit better.
And your father also took up with the Buzia administration, was it?
They made him GFA chairman. And then it was called GAFA, Ghana Amateur Football Association. So, they gave him that position because at the time, the MPP was quite elitist and you needed to have like a degree or some kind of more education. And they kept saying, oh, Kwadwo Djaba school and do football, GAFA chairman. And that's what they did.
Why was he in affairs of politics?
He loved politics because, remember, he was a CPP activist who he claims, he's told us that he actually was an action trooper around the Nkrumah time, independence time, and he fought for independence. So he was somebody that was passionate about politics. You know, some people just like politics. So he would read a lot. He read all the newspapers and he went to these rallies and would wear his political suit and he just loved politics. So I think he loved his country, and he's somebody who wanted justice, fairness. Yes.
Was the overthrow of Busia fair to him?
Interesting. Well, Daddy was, at the time, I had started Wesley Girls High School, and I was 11 years old at that time. And I remember him coming to the school to visit me when Robert Mensah died, because he was in charge of Black Stars before they go and play the football. And Ghana was, Robert Mensah was Africa's #1.
Okay.
And Ghana was doing very well, excelling in football.
Okay.
So the coup came 13th of January, 1972.
Okay.
And I saw on the notice board at my school, Djaba on the run. General Kutua Champo had come in and Djaba was on the run. And the school, my friends were teasing me. I was worried because I didn't know where my daddy had gone. I think he ran across the border to Abidjan and disappeared, came to England. So what then happened was a Champon placed a policeman or soldier in front of our house, seized all our assets.
Okay.
And my father was in what you call self-exile for many, many years in England.
Okay.
Up until 1976.
Why did he run?
Because he was afraid that because he has money, they would come and attack him. And
was that the trend at the time?
A lot of people were arrested. Those who didn't run were arrested. Some were arrested. Because in a coup, you don't understand what's going to happen. We, at the time, had moved from Kanda to Tesano, and we shared a common wall with Kojo Chikata.
Okay. So
whenever there's a coup, we could hear gunshots. Sometimes they'll come to our house and molest us or assault us. So it's good that he ran. Yes, he was very clever to run. He didn't run on his own. There were other people that he met in Abidjan, Apia Minka, so many other people.
Could you just clarify something for me? Just before we come to Busia's takeover. Kotoka, was he the actual planner for the coup that led
I believe that he was. There were a group of people, I believe that he was.
So why did the FIFA come to you then? Because most people that have been on this platform have stated that the FIFA was never involved.
Well, he knew it was happening because this was the day before. Why would he come to us the day before? The thing is, when you're doing things like that, there's something called intelligence.
Okay.
You have to be careful who you talk to.
Okay.
And also, if you're planning something, say you and I are planning something,
right, and
we're going to do an act that could end up in both of us being dead,
right,
you're surely not going to go and broadcast it anywhere, are you?
Okay.
So all I know is that he came to us and told my mom, take the children, and he saved our lives because, to be honest, there could have been a stray bullet flying down our way.
He went into self-exile after Busia's administration.
Yes.
What was his engagement with the Champon regime?
Good.
From afar.
From here, he used to have a lot of meetings in his house with a lot of people who had come into exile.
Okay.
And remember, General FIFA was alive then.
Okay.
So they would meet in his house in Willesden Green. My father had 4 houses in Willesden Green.
Okay.
So often, when he was bored, he would go to Heathrow Airport, and if people came in and he found people who appeared to be stranded, he would bring them home, give them Ghana food, and talk to them, accommodate them, and then find them a place. So he was often entertaining Dr. Busia, all these people, and they loved him because he was such a generous man. And he looked after some of their children. He would give them handouts or he gave them scholarships. So they just liked him. So when he was here, he held a lot of meetings, and I think Achampon had heard. But he wanted to come home. He missed home. He loved Ghana. So he said to my mom, go and speak to go and speak to General Achampon and see whether he'll allow me to come and set up a business. So my mother formed a friendship with Mrs. Faustina Achampon.
Okay.
And then was able to meet General Achampon one-on-one, and then explained that my father wanted to establish a neoplan bus company, an assembly plant.
Okay.
The parent company is in Germany.
Okay.
And what they do is they would assemble the buses in Ghana for Ghana roads with the intention of exporting some of them. And if you had no money, you'd go to Social Security Bank, borrow the money and purchase 3 of the buses. And then as you run the business, you would pay off bit by bit. That was an innovative scheme that he brought in.
Okay.
So a lot of people became quite wealthy transport owners.
You mean neoplan?
Neoplan, yes.
That was something your father introduced to
Yes,
Ghana.
he brought the first double-decker bus to Ghana. And in those days, it was called Andydtv. It was named after me. Yes. Yes, he was very proud because he sent a lot of the Ghanaians to Germany to train, to learn how to actually assemble the buses. And then he brought them to Ghana. They all got jobs, and it was running perfectly until General Kufu confiscated it. And it's still been confiscated. The government still has it.
What was wrong with the Achampon regime? A lot of people praise the Achampon for...
For me, I was a young girl. I was in Wesley Girls.
Okay.
We were told that we had to start Operation Feed Yourself. So we had to start growing corn.
Okay.
And that meant that our kenke were bigger. The kenke balls were bigger.
Okay.
So to be honest, I felt that there were good things happening because we weren't hungry. As a young girl, I mean, I was a very young girl. So what for us, what was wrong was that our father was in exile, so we couldn't see him often. But the good thing out of that was December 72, he brought us to England.
Okay.
So that meant that when he picked us up from the airport, I said to Dad, I thought London streets were paved with gold. And he laughed and he said, no, it's just an expression. It means that you can make wealth here. It doesn't mean that the streets are tarred with gold. And it was a fantastic time. You know, December 72, he took us round. We came back in the summer of 73. So every summer would come, his children would come for holidays. So for me, it wasn't so bad because we got the chance to come to England on holidays. And in 76, he was able to come back home because Champon gave him safe passage. He said, Henry Djaba, so long as you're not going to do any politics, you can come home and establish your company, be with your family, and get on with your life. So he came home. So for me, I'd say Champon did a lot of good. His wife was also very kind to my mother. Okay. On my mother's 40th birthday, she brought 40 of everything. I wasn't there, I was here. But she brought 40 of everything to my mom. God bless her soul.
Your father is one of the very few lucky wealthy men at the time.
Yes.
What made him so exceptional? He was liked by all of them. Nkrumah, the Buzia, a Frifa, a Champon.
Because he was a generous man. He had a good smile and he didn't mind, say you met him, he didn't mind sponsoring your son or he didn't suggest it. How are your children? What are they doing? Oh, and then you say, okay, one of them is an imprisonment, for example. What does he want to do next? Does he want to come to England? Does he want to go to America? Okay, in that case, I don't mind. I have an extra house. When he comes, he can stay with us. I don't mind sponsoring them. Okay. So he was very close to them in terms of eating together, laughing, parties. So he was just an affable guy, you know? Yeah. And he liked them as well, just the company and the conversations.
Why was the Champon overthrown then? Out of all this goodness?
When he was overthrown, I wasn't in Ghana, I was here. Okay. So all I know is that within the military, a lot of people felt that he was doing something, what they call, there was kalabule going on in the country. And people accused him of how to bet golf. You know, he was favoring women and things like that. So it was mutiny within the ranks. This is how I understand it. And General Kufu took over from Achampon, but I think it was a bloodless takeover.
Yeah, exactly, a palace one.
Yeah, a palace coup.
What has that got to do with your father's?
Yes, we didn't even understand that because Achampon was the one who gave him the contract or allowed him to build the new plant station and also gave him another contract to set up the satellite station at Kuntunasi. Okay. That was a big contract.
All right, for our telecommunications.
Yes, telecommunications. So he made millions from that contract alone. Okay. So that meant that because Achampon gave that contract, when General Kufu came, he just took it away. I mean, there was no particular reason because this wasn't for my dad alone, it was for Ghana. Okay. So it was a difficult time for my dad, really, because it crippled him. You know, here he was, he had borrowed money to set up these things and put these things in place. He didn't take any Ghana money, didn't take any loans from Ghana. He always paid his taxes, but the government came and they confiscated it.
Major General Odate Wellington was killed.
That was not a good day. That was a frightening day. That was something that brutalized and terrorized a lot of us, traumatized us, because I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, in 66, I was 3 years old, so I can't remember much of what was happening. I don't think people even had television. A lot of people had radio. So in 1979, we had a television. I remember we had a television set. and we saw live on TV a lot of these people being murdered. And that wasn't a good day. That was a very, very bad day, very dark day. We also heard university students who were the elitist and the most educated ones saying, let the blood flow. That was very bad and very wicked of them. Because if it was their fathers, would they have said, let the blood flow? Whose blood? You know, we're talking about Ghana that's supposed to be a friendly nation. Ghana that people, I mean, in the 70s when you came to England, you went to maybe Marks and somebody saw you wearing kente or a Ghanaian attire, they would stop you and say, hello, how are you? Where are you from? Are you Ghanaian? And they would be friends with you. But suddenly people had to run for their lives. People had to come to the UK. We're now scattered all over the world. And some of them were even graduates having to do odd jobs. If I say odd jobs, cleaning jobs, care work. It actually threw the whole country into a big fat mess.
Rawlings attempted a coup when
15th of May 1979. I was in Ghana then. I had gone from here. I was doing my sixth form and I was getting ready, preparing myself to go to Oxford to study law, Oxford University. So I was going to do the A-levels here because I was in a private school then at the time. My father, I remember, he had a limousine. He used to take me to school himself, bring me back. And I thought I'll go to Ghana for a short break. So I arrived and then I was working in my father's office. We were doing the new plan project and other things. Even though they had confiscated it, we had other businesses that we were running. Remember, we were doing this agricultural machinery. So we were selling chainsaws, repairing them as well. So my father also had a 25-acre cocoa farm. So he had other things that he could put his hands on. And he also had a lot of campaigning to do. Because remember, Victor Wusu at the time was campaigning to be the next president. So I remember my father ordering a lot of the election souvenirs from Germany. We're talking about baseball caps, T-shirts, vehicles, like Datsun pickups and vans and loudspeakers and all those things, because they brought them to our house. They were in our garage and people would come and collect, and also he would give money to people to go and do their campaigning. And suddenly we heard that, you know, there'd been the first attempted coup, and Rawlings had been subjected to some form of, I don't know whether it was torture or whatever. And then June 4th arrived, and then we heard guns early in the morning, and I saw Rawlings come out on TV. He sounded a very angry man, very passionate, skinny young man, and I couldn't understand why he was so angry. So I tried to rationalize what was going on, and it appeared that anybody who had more than one house, more than one car, more than one wife, more than one WC in your house, if you're over 40 and you had too much money, you were going to die. People who had over 50,000 cedis, they were going to confiscate them. You had to hand it over or you die. And in those days, we had at least 17 vehicles in and around the house, because my mother was also a transport owner at the time. So she had 3 new plan buses. On the side of it, it was written Curiosity Transport. That was my mother's business name. And then she had an articulated truck, a tipper truck, and then my father's cars. He had 2 Cadillacs, a red one and a blue one, and other vehicles there. So as the soldiers were passing in Tessanot, you know, we lived very near the GNTC, near the sports club. They were going door to door. So if they saw that you had more than one car, they immediately came into the house. That's what they would do. And then they would drive them away. You know, bring the keys. They would just take them away.
Just like that?
Yes. So that's what they did. I remember my father had a dark blue 450 Mercedes-Benz. It was a brand new one. They took it away. They just took it away. You couldn't say a word or you'd be shot. So they took away all our cars, everything. And my father, at the time, he didn't say anything. He just said to us, oh, he wants to go and visit one of his friends, Colonel Akwenote. He was a former Greater Accra regional minister. They were very close. So he had retired, but he had been arrested and taken to Nsawam. So my father said, I want to go and visit my friend. So he went to visit his friend. And then somebody in Sawan prison, one of the guards or officers saw him and said, Henry Djaba, what are you doing walking around?
Yeah.
He didn't think anything of it. So when he came home, he said, look at what has happened. Somebody says, what am I doing walking around? But that was the same day that they announced that they were about to kill General Afrifa and the, I think there were 6 of them.
Okay.
Former heads of state.
Right.
And when we heard the news, at the time my father had been installed as a chief for the Yilo Krobo traditional area, paramount chief, but they only allowed him to be a chief one day. You know, the people themselves rebelled against his installment, and then they nearly killed him. The guns. I wasn't there, I was in London, but it wasn't a nice installment. So they took it to court, and in the end he just gave it up because they were just messing him about. But he went in his capacity as a member of the Eastern Regional Chiefs, or member of the House of Chiefs, to go and beg or plead for clemency for these people that they had announced they were going to execute. So he tells his story that he went to the Gunja barracks. He met Flight Lieutenant J.J. Rawlings because he knew him. I didn't know this until a few years ago when I was talking to a gentleman who said, do you know your father was Rawlings' friend? He knew him well.
I see.
So he went there to plead, and he actually said to him, Chairman Rawlings, if you're saying that these people they're corrupt and they have taken government money, I, Henry Djaba, will go and find the money. If it's a Swiss bank account or wherever, and bring it. Just spare their lives.
Okay.
And he tells his story that he was told that, Djaba, get out of here. We are going to kill them anyway. There's nothing that you can say or do that is going to prevent it. So he says when he stepped out of the barracks, he was in his red limousine. He went by himself. He didn't go with his driver.
Okay.
As he was coming back home, he saw people gathering at the Teshi firing range. So he stepped out. He just wanted to see, out of curiosity, what was going on. So he was standing there when they actually executed General Afrifa and the rest. And he said they started off shooting him from his leg all the way before it got to his chest. And then, of course, he gave up the ghost. And that was a very traumatic, very painful time for him. Because remember, he knew the man well. He was also related to my mother. So when he came home, he took off his, I think he had like maybe a white shirt. He wore a red shirt. You know, his eyes were red. My mom collapsed. They actually showed it on TV. They televised the executions.
Wow.
And I think I was 16. I was really traumatized because I just thought, this can't happen. What's going on? Because everybody was scared. Everybody was scared. So we said at that time to my dad, this doesn't sound good. Perhaps you need to start, making tracks, leave. He was in no fit state anyway to go anywhere. But that same day was when they announced on the radio, well, Henry Djaba and his brother as well, his brother was called Joseph, report to the Gunja barracks.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we talk more.
Maintaining a presence at the forefront of a global issue with the desire to help others come to a resolve in personal and business affairs is why Andydtv Legal and Immigration Associate was established.
We specialize in overseas British passport applications, bails and temporary admission, deportation and detention cases.
The profound pattern in achieving positive results with fragile cases in immigration, nationality, European Union and human rights law, adoption, marriage, divorce, litigation, and so on, up to date, has been broken, and that is why our client base continues to expand.
We also do representations at the UK border agencies and overseas consulate, human rights law, and settlement and leave to remain applications.
We have the right keys to unlock any case across the spectrum of law, locally in London and across the borders in Ghana, where our other branches are established.
We are located at 44 Broadway, Stratford, E15 1XH. Our telephone number is 0203 1300 751.
So today I'm on a plot of land, not just a plot, a 40-acre plot of land around Oyibi, Old Sasabi. It's between Ubuntu Haven and Apollonia City of Light. This particular property has a good road, there's water, there's light. People have already bought theirs and they are putting up their structures. If you can see, just call the numbers and get yours. Be your own landlord. Okay, so we just passed Car Junction. We're still going around the plot. As you can see to my left, that is Ubuntu Heaven. Some have already gotten their plots and then have their buildings ongoing. There's light, there's water as well. You wouldn't have problem with land mitigation and land guards and all that. As you can see, there are no land guards around. There's a good place to invest if you need a plot of land. Or you can even buy 2, 3, 4 and put up some businesses.
Andydt's natural mineral water comes with a natural thirst-quenching relief. No wonder it leaves you yearning for more and more. Andydt's natural mineral water. Numunsu Papa.
Welcome back. Just before the break, we were talking about a very sad moment.
Yes.
I hardly could handle it. But your father go home.
Yes.
After that fateful day where a kufu was shot, a Frifa was killed. Feli was, I mean, how was that? I mean, you said it was televised.
Yes.
How cruel was that? I mean, families, friends that knew these people. I mean, how was the country on the day?
It was a very sad, solemn day. It was as if darkness had descended on the country. Because we knew a lot of these people personally, and we'd had dealings with them. If I say dealings, we'd sat down and had food with them, drank with them. We knew their children. General Fifa's wife at the time, Auntie Christie, had 6 children and she was 36. She was a young girl, basically. She was a young woman. And can you imagine what the children of these generals had to go through? And for me, the saddest part of it was that even after they had been executed in cold blood, their bodies were not given to the families to go and bury. We did not have closure. They kept them in unmarked graves for 22 years. It took President Kufuor to identify the graves and then do a DNA of the bones and give those back to the families to go and have a funeral. Nowhere in the world have I heard this happen. Because I remember watching Saddam Hussein being executed. And the same day, they gave his family the body and they had a befitting Muslim burial. But in Ghana, these callous, narcissists, wicked people not only took away, these generals were in their 40s, they were young men, took them away in their prime without any public trial, no paper trail for us to know what exactly they had done. They accused them of corruption, okay? Ghana wasn't a better place for what they did. Corruption became even worse in the NDC time, and we'll come to that. The cases like the Maybe and Johnson case, you know? So for me, I thought it was a very, very wicked thing for people to do to their own people. If you claim you're Ghanaian, why would you do that to your own fellow Ghanaian? We weren't at war with any other country, okay? As a soldier, your duty is to protect your nation. Your duty is not to go on a rampage and kill fellow Ghanaians. Some of them were even ordinary market traders like my grandmother. She sold cloth. But just because she was Henry Djaba's mother-in-law, they went there and took away all her cloth. And she died a broken woman. But this execution of the generals was supposed to make us cower into fear and to make us all afraid. And because there was a public outcry and also international outcry, after that, they did it in secret. They no longer did it in public. People just disappeared. According to Amnesty International, if you check the records, in 1 year alone, 800 people disappeared without trace in Ghana, our motherland. And that was a bad time. There was nothing good about it. Nothing at all. It was just a very, very bad time. Because imagine you being in the house with your parents, and one of them goes out maybe to buy groceries or goes to buy petrol, and then they disappear.
No, I understand Rawlings. Your father went to see Rawlings.
Yes.
Try to ensure the safety of these generals, but did not succeed. He drove
beg for clemency.
Okay, but was he the only one in charge at the time? Could you say Rawlings was the only person we could?
He was the leader. You know, if you're leader of a pack, say you own these studios, you are responsible for everybody who is your employee. Because remember, you are the leader, you are the chairman. So you are responsible. So you cannot say that there are 10 of you, therefore you're going to abrogate responsibility to some of them. Everybody was afraid of Rawlings. Remember, Bwachijan was the one. I've met Bwachijan. I met him at a party in White City in this country. He was the one who actually succeeded in the June 4th revolution, they call it. Okay? And he said that because Bwachijan wasn't a good orator in terms of speaking fluently in English, you know, some Ashantis are not that good orators. But compared to Rawlings, who was able to rattle off this, I would say, the way he was going on his English, Jesus Christ, you know, that kind of thing. So he felt that Rawlings would make a better leader. This is why he appointed Rawlings as the leader. So that meant that everybody bowed down to Rawlings. Everybody was afraid of him. So he cannot say that he wasn't the only one. So he's going to shift the responsibility to someone else. That's not true. That's not true. He was in charge. He was the leader. He took decisions. If he said no, it meant no. If he said yes, it meant yes. If he had said stop it, they would all have stopped.
You think so?
I think so, yes. I believe so, 100%.
Your family were very close to the late General FIFA.
Yes.
But he had a banter with Bwachijan, or Bwachijan's brother. What happened to Bwachijan's brother?
As I hear it, he died during the 66 coup, one of his brothers. As to whether it's a blood brother, a close brother, I don't know.
Okay.
So Bwachijan wanted revenge.
Okay.
Hence him putting him in the list. Because remember, he had resigned from the army and he was MP from Mampong. He had won the Mampong Ashanti seat. So he was getting ready to go to parliament. So there was no need for them to kill him. There wasn't. Okay? There was no need. Because later on, what did Rawlings do? He removed the uniform and became a politician. As if nothing had happened. Maybe they're saying that, I remember seeing on one of your programs, Bwachijan saying that the Constitution says if you overthrow a government, it's treason. What about Rawlings? Didn't he overthrow the Liman government? Wasn't that treason?
Well, he was saying that it's a legitimate government.
You mean Liman's government wasn't legitimate?
Well, no. That one, that is what he said. He endorsed that Rawlings should face trial for that. But Afrifa had taken over Nkrumah.
Look, he handed over very quickly. So let's not even go there. Okay. A lot of people agreed that the man had become a dictator. So let's not rewrite the history. These same Ghanaians actually rejoiced. If you look at YouTube, there are lots of videos about the day Nkrumah was overthrown. So let's put that to one side. They could have tried a free in public. They could have done. They didn't need to execute him.
All of them, actually. Yes,
all of them. All of them. They could have done that. They chose not to because they wanted us all to be afraid of them. So if you're saying the two people that were responsible for any of these things happening, I'll blame Rawlings and Bwachijan, the two of them.
Only those two?
Well, the rest of them, you're looking at the AFRC had Akatapori, all these people. The ones that we know, the most prominent ones, were Rawlings and Bwachijan. And Bwachijan was the kingpin. He was the one making a lot of the decisions. But Rawlings was the leader. Remember, when you're a leader, you assume a role. So you cannot suddenly say, I'm no longer a leader, or I wasn't in charge. No, that's not true. You were the leader. You take responsibility. So everything that went on, the buck stops with Flight Lieutenant J.J. Rawlings.
On the day your father was requested to report, What happened?
We told him, Daddy, run. And he said, no. Why should I run? I haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to go. So he went to the barracks and he didn't come back. We waited until about 8 o'clock in the evening. We realized that he wasn't coming home. He tells us that when he got there, they put him in a condemned cell and then they broke a beer bottle. You know, a lager bottle.
Yeah,
they broke it and then they shaved his hair. He had a little bit of an afro at the time. You should see some of his pictures. Yeah. They shaved his head, all of it. There were scars. He was bleeding. They beat him. They tortured him for days on end. And they said to him, you're next. We're going to execute you. We were fortunate that the night before he was executed, we had two men from the army, two gentlemen from the army. They suddenly turned up at our house in Tesano, 23 North Street, Tesano, near the Tesano Sports Club. That's where we lived. My father had 3 houses in a row at that time. So when they came, they talked to my mother. I was there. You know, I was 16. I knew what was going on. I sat there with them. I served them with some water. And then they said, Mom, you don't know us, but we used to be footballers with the Abuakwa Susubibi Football Club, where my father was a life patron. You know, he actually helped establish that club. Okay. And we have joined the military. We are in the army. I forget their names now. We've seen Daddy in the barracks, and they've told us that tomorrow they're going to execute him. However, because you're so good to us, you know, my father used to buy their jerseys and their boots and everything from Germany. He used to get them after a match, come and watch German TV. We had color TV at the time. Come and watch it, and then they would feed them. We were always good to them. So what they said is, because Daddy has been so good to us, we cannot sit down and watch him executed. So what we're going to do is, we want you, if you've got some money, give it to us. We will go into the inner circle, the actual people who are guarding him, and then bribe them, give them some drinks, and smuggle Daddy out. And we thought, this sounds scary, but we had to trust them. So yes, my mom gave them a suitcase full of money, and they went. We waited until after midnight, and they came back. And they said, has Daddy come home? And we said, no. They had made a mistake. They had actually released his brother, Joseph. So they said, oh no, we need to go back. So we had to give them some more money. They went back and they released my dad. So for us to know that he had been released, it was around about 5 o'clock in the morning. He came near Tesano, but not to the house. He was in a car, in a vehicle, and then he sent a message with the driver saying they should ask me to go and get, he had some powder that he used. It was just for us to know that it was him. Specific powder that he used for his toes. I've forgotten the name of the powder. But he said, can I fetch that and also get him some food? Because he's going on a journey. And that journey, he doesn't know whether he'll get where he's going. But he just wants his last meal. I was his favorite child. I was his firstborn. So he wanted me to do that. And I should cook the food myself. I shouldn't get anybody else to cook it. So I knew he liked his fufu. So that's what I did. You know, parceled it, gave it to the driver. It was done very, very quick. And then he left. So as I understand it, Dr. Buzia's sister, Ama Buzia, she helped him by providing him with 6 different vehicles. This was an operation that was carried out with precision. So because he knew that they would be looking for him, they would change vehicles. You know, they would go from maybe 100 kilometers, then they would change vehicles. Then remember, his scalp had been scraped. So he wore a wig and then a gown like a pastor with a cross and a Bible. And when he got somewhere near the Abidjan border, I mean, I've never been to Abidjan, so I don't know the border. When he got somewhere near there, he actually stepped out of the vehicle, and then he was doing praise the Lord, you know, like a preacher who's going to preach in the next town. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. And then he landed in Ivory Coast, and then he met his friends, and then after a few days, he came to the UK. That's how Daddy escaped with his life.